The James Show Podcast.
There's a definite anti-family movement within feminism in particular, and leftism generally speaking. Team Blue, they're not, they say they're there for family values, but at every turn, they're against the family. And it's the strangest thing in the world to see, because the prime directive of every living thing on Earth going back to the Big Bang is what? Propagation of the species, passing along your genetic material. That is an innate drive that we all have, that every animal has, that every plant has. And so when you fight against that, when you push against that, what the hell kind of evil nonsense is that? Let's do the one thing. Let's push this behavior pattern that'll make us extinct. Because I'm not saying everybody has to get married and have a kid to feel fulfilled, but that is the norm. That is how most of us will feel fulfilled. That is how most of us look, because I didn't know what it would feel like when you had a kid. But the best description I have is in The Matrix, when they woke him up, they stuck him back in the Matrix, and he went through all these training programs, and his eyes were rolling back in his head, and then all of a sudden he looked at you and he says, "I know Kung Fu." So when my kids were born, all of a sudden all this programming and instinct just downloaded in my head, some chemical reaction happened, and I was like, I know how to be a dad. Oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's like when you thought you were sick, but you went to the bathroom, you did a great job in there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not sick anymore. I just needed to do that. So for a lot of us, you didn't even know how instinctual it was until it happened, and it's not something you can describe to someone who hasn't had kids. So I'm just floored when I hear someone say something that's just obvious. Hey, we need to encourage motherhood. We need to encourage family formation. We need to encourage having many children and growing the population. And the arguments against it blow my mind. Again, not everyone needs to get married and have a kid, but if everyone did get married and have a kid, we'd be just fine, wouldn't we? If everybody didn't, we would all go extinct within 100 years. Isn't that wild? It's like so many of the little deciding factors. It's like, I'm not against women delaying marriage and pursuing their career and trying to reach their full potential as a career woman and an independent woman and not needing a man. And maybe after you've become CEO of your own Fortune 500 company and you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you can find a life partner to settle down with. And it's probably too late to have a kid by then, but at least you got to reach your own full potential and you don't have to miss Sunday brunch. Fine. If you want to live like that, cool. If you want to live Sex in the City, you think that's an instruction manual, knock yourself out. But if everybody did that, we would go extinct in 100 years. So one of the speakers at CPAC over the weekend, Isabel Brown, was just saying, hey, we should encourage motherhood. And The View was not having it.
I don't even know how to explain the story, but I'm going to tell you what happened.
She's acting like it's something bizarre, like someone divided by zero. I don't even know how to explain this to you. What, have a family? It's the most normal thing in the world. Remember, this is having a family, getting married and having kids. Not only is it not bizarre, most normal thing in the world for all of human history up until about 45 years ago.
I don't even know how to explain the story, but I'm going to tell you what happened. The Conservative Political Action Conference, known as CPAC, wrapped up this weekend, and conservative activist Isabel Brown had a message for her fellow Gen Z women, who reportedly are the least likely group in America to get married and have kids.
If you're not encouraging your children to grow up and have the courage to get married and have kids, more kids than they can afford before they think they're ready, it is high time to start. It is these choices, like deleting our dating apps and quitting birth control pills and saying I do at the altar, that ultimately trickle down into the political policies that we will see save our country.
I think it's just really reckless to be suggesting that people should have children when you now know in this country there's this affordability crisis, and for a two-person household, a married household, you need over $400,000 for childcare. Over $400,000. Most people don't make over $400,000. So she's advocating for people to be born into poverty, people not being able to feed those children, people not being able to educate those children, and people not being able to house those children at the same time when this government is cutting all of the services that would allow people to have families and big families and children.
$400,000
Wow. Yeah, you shouldn't have kids. It's going to cost $400,000 to raise them. And if you don't have them, you're just having kids being born into poverty. You can't do that. There have been approximately 117 billion people who have ever lived on Earth. And all but maybe a couple million of them were raised on less than $400,000. You realize how insane that sentence that came out of Sonny Hostin's mouth is? And you know how insane it is that the other four ladies at that table weren't pushing back? They were all on the same page. Oh, you can't have a kid. No, not in this market, not in this economy. Have you seen the cost of daycare? This is insane. Almost all human beings have been born into what you consider poverty. In fact, for all of human history, unless you were one of the few dozen kings and queens on the planet, everyone in human history was born into what you call poverty. Not only is it not unthinkable or immoral or wrong, it's the most normal thing in the world. Being born to someone who's going to be able to spend $400,000 on you with no problem is almost impossible. I mean, it's not impossible, but it is the exception to the rule. I mean, what tiny percent, maybe less than 1% of human beings are born in that level of affluence. What a dumb thing to say, but what a room full of dumb people to go along with it. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. They're, again, advocating for policies that would extinct the human race. That's not a hyperbole either. They talk about, oh, we're the love trumps hate. You want to extinct the human race? Coming up next, you're going to see how well this overlaps with the first 3 minutes of the Mike Judge movie Idiocracy, the first pre-documentary in history. It's almost like they are doing a Mike Judge sketch. Just to let you know, myself and Miss Parker had 4 kids.
Hi, Miss Parker.
And we both wanted a lot of kids, and we knew that before we had met. We were both just had the same mindset. If we had met earlier, we'd have had 10 kids. Something that they don't tell you, though, is raising kids. This is going to tick a lot of people off, but just people without kids, don't listen to them. Listen to me for a second. If you're young enough that you haven't had kids yet, listen to me. It's 10 times easier than they make it sound. It may be 100 times easier than they make it sound. It's not bad. Oh, yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of reward. And you have a lot of instincts that kick in. You have these superpowers that kick in where you just don't need sleep. You're not going to get sleep for the first 3 to 6 months period. And you find out that, you know what, I can get by on 2 hours of sleep here and there. We can do this. It's only for a little while. It's only going to be for a few years. And I don't know if they're necessarily anti-family, but I think a lot of people like to exaggerate their accomplishments. So they're like, oh, yes, I have 2 kids. You won't believe the amount of work and the amount of cost it takes and what all I have to do. And I have to drive everywhere. I have to remember all these appointments. And they just want you to think that they're awesome. Now, it's way easier than it sounds. Absolutely way easier than it sounds. But the whole idea that, well, we can't have a kid right now, not with the economy the way it is, not with the market the way it is. Oh, no, that wouldn't be smart. That wouldn't be responsible. It sounds like the beginning of Idiocracy. If you haven't seen Idiocracy, the first couple of minutes explains the premise of the whole movie. I broke it up into 2 parts. This is the intro.
As the 21st century began, human evolution was at a turning point. Natural selection, the process by which the strongest, the smartest, the fastest reproduced in greater numbers than the rest, a process which had once favored the noblest traits of man, now began to favor different traits. Most science fiction of the day predicted a future that was more civilized and more intelligent. But as time went on, things seemed to be heading in the opposite direction, a dumbing down. How did this happen? Evolution does not necessarily reward intelligence. With no natural predators to thin the herd, it it began to simply reward those who reproduced the most and left the intelligent to become an endangered species.
Right. And so that kind of speaks to a lot of issues we're having now. If we listen to The View and just have like one or two kids, if not at all, and then meanwhile, all these hundreds of thousands of immigrants that are coming here who don't love America, who don't share our values, have like 8 to 10 kids, we are going to be outnumbered in a couple generations. That's just math. But here's the part where they sound just like Sonny Hostin. Like Mike Judge was thinking about you, ladies of The View, when he wrote this genius part of the script.
Evolution does not necessarily reward intelligence. With no natural predators to thin the herd, it began to simply reward those who reproduced the most and left the intelligent to become an endangered species.
All right, here's a smart couple. First,
having kids is such an important decision.
We're just waiting for the right time. It's not something you want to rush into, obviously.
No way.
Here's the dumb people.
Yeah.
I got too many damn kids. Thought you was on the pill or some.
Hell no.
Must have been thinking of Brittany.
Brittany? No, you. There's
Smart
no
people.
way we could have a child now. Mm-mm. Not with the market the way it is, no.
God, no. That just wouldn't make any sense.
Stupid people.
He don't care about you.
Yeah, well, there must be something he likes over here.
Well, we finally decided to have children, and I'm not pointing fingers, but it's not going well.
And this is helping.
I'm just saying that before I have in vitro, maybe you should be willing to...
It's always me, right?
Well, it's not my sperm count.
Yeah! I'm gonna on you! That's my boy!
Cleavon is lucky to be alive. He attempted to jump a jet ski from a lake into a swimming pool and impaled his crotch on an iron gate. But thanks to recent advances in stem cell research and the fine work of Drs. Krinsky and Altshuler, Cleavon should regain full reproductive function.
Get your hands off my junk!
Unfortunately, Trevor passed away from a heart attack while to produce sperm for artificial insemination. But I have some eggs frozen, so just as soon as the right guy comes along,
And so it went for generations, although few, if any, seemed to notice.
All right, now let's go back to The View real quick.
Really
Reckless.
Reckless to be suggesting that people should have children when you now know in this country there's this affordability crisis, and for a 2-person household, a married household, you need over.
All right. Enough of that. To the phones we go. Aaron in Plano, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
To think that prior generations had so much less than what we have and still managed to do it and even have more kids. Astounding, But this negativity, this is what's driving this whole, this generational negativity from our media has been driving a lot of this. It didn't stop the missus and I, but I can see where it can cloud people's thinking, and it's unfortunate. It really is, because there's a lot to live for.
Man, it's so weird. When I talk about myself and Miss Parker, we're very...
Hi, Miss Parker!
I know it doesn't seem like it because I work on WBAP, but we're very artsy-fartsy people. We both play music, and she's like a painter who does all kinds of like artwork like that, and I'm in showbiz. And so we're surrounded, like most of our friends are lefties. And when you look at the people who stood in our wedding, like the best man and one of the bridesmaids ended up getting married, they're raging lefties. He's a Puerto Rican socialist and she's a professor at a big private university. They had one kid. For another one of my best friends, that former roommate, they're raging liberals, Bernie supporters, they had one kid. And the rest of my wedding party, I have, there was the maid of honor, never got married, never had a kid. Another one of my groomsmen, never got married, never had a kid. My other groomsman, who's actually the only other conservative in the whole group, married my sister. They had 3 kids. The other bridesmaid, lesbian, so obviously no kids. We outbred all of them and just one couple. So... I think this is going to work out well for us in the long term. But look, you don't have to wait the outcomes. If you follow the right precepts, principles, and values, you're going to succeed. And if they depart from it, they're going to fail. And it's happened so much just in the microcosm of my wedding party I think that's evidence enough. This whole anti-family thing is just a path to extinction. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.